Okay, so at this time, we have a presentation, information for the update on the 2020-2021 school reopening plan. And Dr. Kendra Singh and Mrs. Julie Norby will provide us an update on school reopening plans.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone.
2 weeks from today.
Yeah, 2 weeks from today, which we're ready. We're ready. We're doing some last-minute things. Mrs. Norby, do you mind hitting the slide for me? So I just want to I'm going to do a quick recap to remind everybody where we are, as if we need a reminder. Remember, we're in that space of time where schools in California cannot open to face-to-face instruction until we are off the monitoring list for 14 days. And so we know that given that the case rate in San Diego County right now, this could be some time. So we are prepared and ready to offer our students a beautiful online program as we get started for the start of school. Can you do the next slide? Okay. So you know that once we are allowed to reopen, we will come back to you, and once it gets closer, and talk with you about all those specific plans. We know that we'll be either opening in a blended way or fully face-to-face again, but that is for a future time for our discussion. This time right now is really to have you get an update from us on what our instructional plans are and what the instructional days will look like. We know that hopefully we have some parents on our meeting tonight, and we're going to answer a lot of questions, but if there is anyone who's listening to our meeting tonight and has further questions, we want to have you reach out on our website, and we'll continue. We answer questions daily for parents in that way, and we're really, really happy to do it. So we're going to get started, and Mrs. Norby's going to kick us off here. Are we in that right spot, Mrs. Norby? Here we go. Oh, gosh. Let's see. Let's see. Seth, can you advance the slide for us, or is it here?
Sure, you have. Are you present?
I think. Oh, there we go. Okay, so one more. That's what I thought. One more little slide for you. So let me give you a quick summary of. Remember, these are the choices that our families have made, and we've been working with them to confirm the one of two of the main choices that the majority of our families will either be in a face-to-face learning choice, meaning when we're allowed to open school, they plan to return face-to-face, or we have families who have chosen to be in our virtual academy and stay online all year long. Those are the two choices. What can make it a little confusing is our face-to-face families, kids, are starting online to start. So that's just to be clear. Remember, you're either going to choose to come back face-to-face, or you're in our virtual academy. And our parents have been working beautifully with us. We're getting closer and closer to have confirmed with all of our families. Not quite everybody yet, but our schools are just furiously calling and making sure that we know what our families want to do. The last option, as you know, is an alternative option that's always been a part of our school district, and that's our homeschool academy. That's a much smaller number of children in the district whose parents are teaching their children at home. We have a beautiful program for our homeschool academy. That's an alternate choice that doesn't involve a lot of kids, but it's an important choice nonetheless for our families who want to do homeschooling. But the main two are the two that you see up above there, our face-to-face kids and then our virtual academy kids. They'll be coming back and staying online all year long. Okay, so just as a recap, so Mrs. Norby's going to get us started to talk about how we've gotten to this point for our instructional program.
Excuse me, Dr. Singh. For those who are listening, could you please tell us, Mrs. Norby, what your role is in the district? Because some listeners may not know.
Great.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Yes, Julie Norby. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services. So our department oversees curriculum instruction, assessment, technology, special education, and student services. Thank you. So we have had a very, very busy summer, as you can imagine. We have been working collaboratively with our teachers across the district and across the schools and across the grade levels. Very early in the process, it was recommended by our action team to get a group of people together, a group of teachers together, to start to talk about what will it look like in the fall when we come back to school. So we did that. We put out a plea to principals saying, who would you like to recommend? We invited teachers to attend, and we set up a grid of teachers across schools, across grade levels. That also included our district and site administrators. We've had over 10 full team meetings, but we've had about 50 subgroup meetings. So we would meet as a whole team, we'd start as a team as to what our objectives were, and then we'd break off into subcommittees. And then we'd come back, and then we'd break off into subcommittees. So just a huge thank you to the commitment of these teachers and these administrators, because they have given many, many hours to this process on behalf of their colleagues. One of the things that we talked about early on in the process is that, yes, this is new to all of us. Distance learning is new, but teaching is not new to us, and education is not new to us. Our teachers are really good teachers, and we are having to figure out a new way to do it, but we don't want to forget all the things that we know about good teaching, because all of those things are still important when we move to distance learning. So that was a basic foundation that we had as we moved forward. When we started the process, it was all based on what did we learn from before. As Mr. Billingsley was talking earlier, we had some distance learning going on in the spring. We like to refer to that kind of as crisis teaching. You've heard that phrase a lot in the media, I know. And it really was. We were thrown into it very quickly. But we learned a lot, and we did a lot of things really good. And we did a lot of things that said, now, I wish I would have known what I know now then. So that's what we worked on first. We just talked to our teachers. We looked at the surveys that we sent out to teachers, the surveys that we sent out to parents, the surveys that we did with children, and we said, what works for you? Because we want to replicate that. What gaps did you find, and what do you wish you knew? Because we want to give you professional development in that area. And equally important, which curriculum worked and which ones didn't, and how could we support that? So that was the first thing. We just looked at all the data. And then we identified what we wanted to focus on. And then we said, okay, this information is going to help us develop a program that we are so proud of. And what I'm going to be sharing with you tonight is exactly that. So we broke it into four different areas that we would look at throughout the summer, starting with student learning at the center. Everything we needed to focus on was around that. And also we wanted to make sure that whatever we determined that we would be using or strategies that we would be teaching would be something that was good no matter which continuum of learning environment we were in, because we can anticipate that we will be moving in and out of different learning environments. So we want that to be as seamless as possible for our teachers as well as for our students. So whether we are in face-to-face, distance learning, or a blended model, we want to make sure that all the decisions we make could be used in all of those areas. I love this quote by George Couros. Because we know that technology is going to play a really big role in what we're doing this coming year, but it's not the technology that makes it great. It's the teacher using the technology that really has the ability to transform what we're going to do for kiddos. So one of the things any good teacher knows is that in order to start teaching children, you better have a really good feeling in your classroom. You better have developed a community, and our teachers in the past have spent a lot of time in the first couple of weeks and ongoing throughout the year doing just that. This will be no different. It will just be done in a different way. But building a virtual community is going to be very important, and we have spent a lot of time talking and reading about that in our meetings that we've been having. One of the things that you'll see when we talk about a daily schedule, especially for our TK through 6 students, is that they will start every day with a morning meeting with their classroom teacher. That will be whole group, that will set the tone for the day, it will be something engaging. I've given kind of some ideas there. It might be that you know, what emoji describes how you're feeling today. Today I'm grateful for. What is something you did over the weekend? So something that will engage everybody in the chat box or on a document or on a slide, and get everybody kind of going. That will happen every morning. For our middle school students, it will happen at the beginning of every period. So if you are in your first period, the whole class will log on and have an opportunity to set the tone for that particular subject matter. We have teachers doing all kinds of very fun things right now with their virtual classrooms and getting ready to present those to the kiddos, as well as then there's ways that they can do emojis with the kids and taking a class picture then, such as the example here, or that they might do a bulletin board of different students' passions or interests. So they're getting very creative, but all those things to create that sense of community and that we're still a class even though we're logging in and we're squares on a computer right now. And then, of course, we have Leader in Me, our student leadership has amazing opportunities for us this year to look at those habits in a very different way and how it will contribute to your success as an online learner. And then just some other fun little things that you see up there. But this is going to be a very important component before we can even begin to teach. So then, as I said, we split it into 4 different areas. We talked about first curriculum. What is the what? What are we going to use to teach? Instruction is the how. How are we going to teach it? How are we going to know what kids need to learn? And how are we going to know if they've learned it? So the assessment piece. And then, of course, the professional development. If we're going to be bringing in a lot of new things, we must make sure our teachers are prepared for that. So I'm just going to kind of go through each of these areas one by one quickly. Most of these you'll recognize from your board agendas the last few weeks, as we've been asking you to approve some of the new learning materials that we'll be using. So first of all, we can be rest assured that we will continue to use our adopted core materials, so our Irvine Math program, our reading program, those will all continue to be used. But what we recognized was that our supplementary curriculum probably could be tweaked for this type of learning. I'll give you an example. We had Dreambox for math, ST Math. These were all computerized programs that our kids could take an assessment and be placed on and take advantage of the coursework that it was assigned. We had Lexia for a reading program. So kids would have to take different assessments for each of these programs, and then they would have to log on with a different clever code, and then they would have to do a different learning platform. So one of the things that our teachers asked us for is, can we just simplify this, please? One of the things our parents said, can you just simplify this, please? And so we did. And you might remember that we approved Renaissance Learning or Star 360 and Freckle, which does all of those things, but in one program. And then, of course, you've seen things like Defined Learning is on our agenda for tonight and some other programs. So the curriculum was really an important piece. Instruction, we have identified instructional practices that we believe are best practices for online learning. And we have been then working with our teachers to make sure that they know how to do that. A lot of it came from them. They said, if I had known this, I could have been better. And so we've been providing that professional development for them throughout the summer. We have mostly as it relates to the Google Suite in terms of Google Classroom, Google Meet, Google Slides. So they've been doing a lot of training. Our teachers have been very committed to doing this on their own time. We certainly are compensating them for their time, but this is their own time still. But they wanted it sooner than later. And of course, any of the new programs that we've adopted, with that program comes a professional development opportunity for our teachers as well. Assessment, we want to know when our kids come in the fall, what are the gaps that we have, what we call the COVID slide, not just the summer slide, but the COVID slide. Where are our gaps for our students? And we have a universal screening tool that will allow us to see exactly what those gaps are. We have lots of opportunities for personalized instruction, whether it's through Thrively from a social-emotional component, whether it's through our new Star 360 that then will connect to a reading component and to a math component. And then we have the importance of helping teachers understand about what we call formative assessment. As they are teaching and as they are getting feedback from students online, what are they learning and what do they need to still know? So we've been having a lot of professional development on making sure you're using tools that will help you see what the children are learning, just like you would in the classroom. It's not all by a test. It's by body language, or it's by thumbs up, or it's by, can you help me understand that? Can you explain that? So we're reminding teachers of those strategies as well.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
What is the home learning kit?
Oh, I'm going to show you a nice picture of those.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you, yes. We want to make sure that our students have the materials that they need to do their learning at home. Textbooks would be a part of that, technology, a device, and then of course we want to make sure that we're providing all of our students with learning kits, that paper, pencil, markers, crayons, earbuds. So we have a nice slide of that, but yes, that's what a home learning kit is. Thank you. I'm sorry I missed that. And then you can see all of the different professional development that we've been offering, like I said, for any of the additional programs that our students will be using and that our teachers will need help with. Any questions about that before I go on to schedule?
So the home learning kits will be delivered sometimes a week before school, and it'll be set out in front of the district, and it'll be a drive-by situation?
Exactly, at each of the schools.
Make sure the school is good.
There's a picture to show you in a minute what they look like.
So what everybody's been waiting for, what will a day look like? What will the day in the life of a student look like? Our teachers have been very, very thoughtful about this. They know that we want to provide a quality program, that we have a lot of curriculum to get through, and we know that students can't be online for 6 hours a day looking at a screen. So how do we manage all of that? How do we balance all of that? So the expectation is that our teachers are teaching 6 hours a day, but our students certainly aren't online for 6 hours a day. So I just want to let us know that this is a sample schedule. Every student's schedule will not look exactly like this in terms of that they will have English language arts first thing in the morning. Just like in some classrooms, some teachers do math first, some teachers do English language arts first, but this will just give you an idea of what a schedule might look like. So for our TK through 6, from 8:30 to 8:50 every morning, there will be a morning meeting. And that will be a time where the entire class logs on. It's an opportunity to remind our kids that they've eaten a good breakfast and that they're not in their jammies anymore, that we're here today to learn. And they'll be setting those procedures in place with their kiddos, just like they do when kids come to school. We have certain procedures that we do. This will also be a time where they'll start their community, building of their virtual community every day. And most classrooms do a morning meeting when they're in real-time, face-to-face meeting as well. After that, they will go into a first, what we'll call an instructional block. And in this particular sample schedule, it would be
With the morning meeting, would you expect, for example, to have the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. The first instructional block then might be an English language arts block. It would start out whole class, so Mrs. Smith would have all of her class on her Google Meet, and she would be setting the stage. So just like she would do in a classroom, where she would be saying, today we're going to be focusing on this particular skill, and here's what you're going to be learning, and here's why you're going to be learning it, and what you're going to be doing with it, and we're going to have a kind of a whole group set, and then she might break off into small groups. So she might say, Group A, I'm going to keep you on here right now. Group B, you're going to work in your journals, and Group C, you're going to go watch this video that might be explaining something or illustrating a story. And then in 20 minutes, we're going to rotate, and I'm going to call Group B back, and then, so it will be very similar to rotations in a classroom. In addition to that, the teacher then also has the opportunity to pull one-on-one students and to meet with somebody who maybe needs a one-on-one conference in a writing conference, for example, or to do a running record, or to have them read aloud to her so she can get a feel for how they're reading. So, and every period will work very similarly to that. Each teacher, at the beginning of the year, will post their schedule on their, what we're calling a Google site. It will be on their on the school site's website. Each teacher will have a page that the parents can go to, see what their daily schedule is, know when their office hours are, know when what their Google Classroom code is, know what their Google Meet code is. So, and their individual schedule will be on there. Like I said, some teachers will do math first, some might do English language arts, especially if they're partnering with special education teachers who need to be in multiple places at one time, right? So they need to work around that schedule. The thing so each of the subjects will work very similar: mathematics, social studies, science. What I want to talk a little bit about is that last block of time at the end of the day. That's actually a block of time where the teachers will be available, the classroom teachers, for their office hours. This will be a time where parents or students can call, call or email or hop on a Google Meet, make an appointment to meet with the teacher to get some specific instruction or directions or clarification on something. We want, our teachers found that last spring, those office hours were very valuable to parents, and so they asked us to replicate that time dedicated to that. So while our teachers are doing that, we have a variety of other support programs, though. Our librarians can be doing story time with our students, or working on research skills, or doing some other, we actually have a subcommittee of librarians right now kind of talking about all the things that they can be doing. Working on digital citizenship, so they can be doing lessons on that. Our PE teachers can be meeting with students during that time. our counselors can be doing Tier 1 lessons at that time. So there's a dedicated time every day for our parents and students to have access to their teacher. I would also add that Fridays will be our early release day now. In the past, you know, we've had Wednesdays as our early release day. It will be Fridays now. And that aligns with the high school, as well as when I show you the junior high schedule, you'll see why it really aligns well for the junior high. Any questions about the TK through 6? I'm sure
So
there's some.
recess, will the Google Classroom be left open and the kids can visit with each other?
I'm not sure about that, actually, to be honest. That's a great idea. I know that the teacher will need to take a recess. So, so I haven't figured that one out yet. But I would imagine that probably not during recess, because really we want the kiddos to take a break off screen time. We want them to get outside. We want them to take a break. But that there will be opportunities throughout the day built in, whether it's during those morning meetings or during a collaboration time in a small group reading or during PE time at the end of the day, that there'll be opportunities for kids to commingle, so to speak, but probably not during recess and lunch.
Or if you're not going to later, a little bit about if any of this will be recorded or the students are expected to be there right then.
I have a slide on that, I
Okay.
sure will. Thank you.
And I just have one last question. Do you have breakout rooms? I don't know if Google Classroom.
They do now, yes,
Yeah.
they do.
They didn't before, but they do.
Right.
They do now.
It's really advantage.
It really is.
Mhm.
It really is. Okay, so the 7 and 8 schedule is similar in concept in the terms of that the teachers will meet in both whole group and small group and individual. But the difference this year for our 7th and 8th graders is that they will be going to a block scheduling. So instead of a 55 or 60-minute block, they'll actually be having a 90-minute block of time that they will meet with their classes. That will allow them to go deeper into the content on each day, because, you know, 45 minutes or 50 minutes can go pretty quickly, especially if you're trying to get kids logged in and out and working small group. Our middle school teachers that were on the committee were very excited about this opportunity for them to be able to meet whole group, again, like an elementary school teacher, set the stage, give an assignment, give something that they're going to work on, and then meet in small groups with groups of children so that they can really give them more individualized attention and more personalized attention, and really focus on the skills that they might need. Kids in a group of 5 or 6 might be more willing to raise their hand and ask a question than in a group of 30 or 28. So that's the main difference. So so for a student would have periods 1, 3, and 5 on Monday and Wednesday, and periods 2, 4, and 6 on Tuesday and Thursday. So this is just an example that they would have English language arts on Monday and Wednesday, math on Tuesday and Thursday, and then social studies, science, PE, elective. Again, that's random. We don't know exactly what every student's schedule will be when the master schedule makes that, but that kind of gives you an idea. The same thing at the end of the day, though, they will also have a daily block of time that they will be able to communicate with parents and teachers, and where they can, and this is also where some of that will, that attendance monitoring, that when we know that a child hasn't been checking in, that the teacher can then be following up during this time as well. So it's not just a one-way communication, parent and student into the teacher. This is also a time for the teacher to reach out to parents and say, might want to check on this, or hey, I've missed Johnny. So that last block of time will be available for them to do that while our students are still engaged in an activity.
What will PE look like?
We've had one meeting with our PE teachers, and we have another one tomorrow. Thank you to Dr. Curcio, who's running that. They have some wonderful ideas. They really have some great ideas. We've been spending a lot of time really digging into the health framework, and not just the physical education piece of it, but all of the other components of the physical education state framework. And they're looking forward to taking on some of the health and nutrition, some of the drug awareness and tobacco awareness. And then one of the big pieces of the health framework is this concept of children having logs where they kind of set their own goals for their own physical activity, and then they monitor those. So they'll be working on those with the students as well. And then, of course, they'll have, similar to what they did in the spring, where they might have a bingo board of different activities for them to do and to check it off and earn points and things to that effect. But they are very clever and very creative, and they've spent all summer coming up with ideas for us. Awesome.
I also have a question about PE. What might these PE teachers be doing during the morning period?
It is a really good question. And actually, the PE teachers for the middle school actually have a block of time. So a child might have PE third period. So they'll be meeting with kids throughout the day.
Just like a regular school.
Just like a regular school, yes. And then Fridays, thank you. Fridays, remember our shortened day, our early release day. So on Fridays, what the middle schools are planning on doing is actually meeting with all 6 periods, but for a shorter amount of time. So this would be a time to wrap up the week and set the tone for the next week. So it also could be a time that they might do assessments or some spot checking of work completion and getting ready for the next week. Any other questions on that?
I want to piggyback on what Mrs. Lieber was saying about, will they have an opportunity to chat with one another? Let's say in the afternoon, without using their own personal or family email, is there an opportunity for the kids just to hook up in the afternoon and say hi to one another using this Google format? No?
I think we can be creative and clever and come up with some opportunities built into the day. The problem with the Google Meet is that it needs to be really teacher supervised. So it has to kind of be built in. But I would suspect that our teachers are, they know how important that is. So the activities that they're going to create are not just going to be teacher directed. They're going to be student interactive. Lots of student interaction. And that's been a lot of the strategies that we've talked about this year, is to make sure, or this summer, is to make sure that your activities are not just a teacher lecturing. That's not going to, that's not going to cut it. You have to be really engaged. Yeah. All righty, so let's talk about our little home learning kits. We're very excited about these. Schools have been putting these together the last week or so. A thank you to our purchasing department who managed to get these little learning packs for us. Every child will receive a learning pack, just like this little one here. It's a backpack with string carries, and it will have inside it their textbooks. So every first grader from that school will have the textbooks that they need, including their little readers. Once we know their reading level, that they'll have their textbook. They'll have, we do Irvine Math Project, and we have packets for that. They'll have their first unit in there, and then they'll have a variety of supplies. Part of what will also be issued to them is a Chromebook. Now, you know that most of our students received Chromebooks in the spring, and we allowed them to keep those over the summer, so we won't need to be rechecking those out. But those students who didn't have one, or who are new to us, or maybe were a sibling and they only had 1 or 2 for the family, but now they need 3 or 4, then they'll be able to come and check out a Chromebook as part of their learning pack as well. And our principals are working with our tech department on the organization of that, just like we did in the spring, where parents had an opportunity to come and pick those up. I'll show you a picture of what's inside our learning packs. This is just a sample. Supplies are still coming in, but this gives you just a little idea of what might be in there. Every child will have a whiteboard, eraser, pencil, crayons, kind of like the things that they get at the beginning of the school year on their desk.
This is just a wonderful, unintended good consequence to give them these, earbuds so that 2 students or 3 students are in the room. How wonderful is that? And now they have some great supplies at home. It's really excellent. Thank you for doing that.
And we learned from our migrant program this summer, because we had an online migrant program, and this is what the migrant program did for their students, and we just received such positive feedback from it. Okay. So as we said at the beginning of this, our teaching this fall will not be like it was in the spring. There are some very different expectations for both teachers as well as for students. Some of that's legislated by law, and some of that is that we want our children to be really successful. And our teachers collaboratively have come up with schedules for themselves as well as for our students that we think that we can accomplish that. Is it as good as being in person, face-to-face, 6 hours a day? No. Does that make us sad? Yes. But we're going to do the very best we can with what we have. And I, as Dr. Singh said, I am very proud of what our teachers have come up with and the commitment that they have to making this the very, very best that we can offer. So some of the things that we know, daily attendance is required. Students will have to log in every day, and the teachers will have to take attendance. And they will have to be monitored. And as we mentioned before, if they aren't attending, then we by law have to have a re-engagement plan for them that is tiered, starting with the classroom teacher, going with the clerk, going with the principal, maybe even going with a more of a district level intervention. So it's very tiered, and we'll be doing that. Daily live interaction with all students with their teacher or teachers if they're in middle school. It must be a live interaction in which you teach a lesson or start something and then move them forward into an independent practice. And that's required for every subject that we're talking about here. To your question, Mrs. Levis, about synchronous and asynchronous instruction, yes, we will have both synchronous and asynchronous. I can tell you that the live instruction will most likely not be recorded. There's a lot of privacy issues that kind of go with that. But that being said, the teachers will be providing a lot of recorded lessons to their students. So for example, I might be teaching a small group this, but a small group might be watching this that I pre-recorded because I know that they needed extra help in that. Or many of our different curricula that we adopted have videos embedded into their curriculum. So if a child is needing help on multiplying fractions, there's a video that Freckle has for that. So then the student can be assigned that or pushed out to their Google Classroom. So there's lots of videos available, but probably not of the actual live teaching. Also, it is required that students are completing their work. They will be graded on that work. Teachers will be monitoring their progress, and grades will be assigned at the end of the semester or trimester. And that's different than it was in the spring, if you remember, right? So that is very much a requirement. Parents will get progress reports, just like they did before, so that they will know if their students aren't completing their assignments. All students will have a Chromebook. We have plenty of them to go around and more coming that have been ordered. Thank you to our tech department. All students will be provided a hotspot if they need one. And then we, of course, will continue to have our tech support for parents, as well as staff, as well as students. And there's that hotline number that we developed in the spring. I'm going to talk a little bit more about technology. We ended the school year, as you've heard us say, with a very proud 97% of our students with internet connectivity. We obviously don't know exactly where we are right now with that because we haven't had contact with our students over the summer. We have begun reaching out, though, to subgroups of our population to say, do you still have internet? Do you need internet? So we have some of our migrant employees reaching out, for example, to our migrant families, and some of our special ed staff is starting to reach out to our so different subgroups right now are beginning to be reached out to so that we can get a jump start on that. Some of that, though, will come through parents contacting the school and saying, help, I don't have this. Some of it will come from our teachers in that first week saying, you know what, they said they have internet, but I haven't met with Johnny yet, so maybe we need to reach out and follow up with that. So that is also part of the legislation, that not only do we provide it, but that we make sure they get it. So we'll be working on that very diligently in that first week of school. And like I said, we've already begun to work on that. I think I've mentioned to you before, but we are partnering with Verizon to provide these district filtered hotspots. They're at the district's cost, so families who don't have internet in their home, but they want their children to be able to access our virtual classroom, we will provide them a hotspot. This hotspot is, we call it a district filtered. It actually runs through the district system, so everything that happens on that hotspot is monitored. So it's not really probably for adult use, it's more for student use to access our curriculum via our Chromebooks. But we will provide those to our families if they need that free of cost. And then, of course, we continue to work with AT&T out at Duluth. And we don't have a solution yet, but we're getting closer, I think, all the time. And Kirby assures me that he's picking up the ball right where Hamilton left off and has exactly the same goal that Hamilton had, which was 100% for our students, and we would want nothing less. And then I just wanted to point out that over the summer we had a number of things happening at our sites and throughout the district on upgrading, getting ready for all of these ever-increasing bandwidth programs and internet connectivities. And so we have significantly upgraded, and I'm gonna sound like I know what I'm talking about here, 1 gig speed to 10 gig speed.
So they tell us.
I have no idea what it means,
So they
but it
tell us.
sounds good, and it sounds like a lot more
Way
speed.
faster.
Way faster.
It is 10 times
10 times faster, which I'm sure is exponentially even like 100 times faster, I don't know. But, you know, we get all excited about the stuff, you know, the devices and things like that, and the hotspots, but there is a whole piece behind the scenes that has to happen in order for all that stuff
So
to
the
work
hotspots,
effectively.
sorry to interrupt, they run through the district's website.
District filter.
Filter, but, I mean, so they're supported by the 10 gig?
Mhm.
Oh, wow.
I
So
think-
they'll have really fast
Yeah,
internet
they
at their
should.
home.
Is that right, Curtis?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, part of it will depend on the area of the home
Yeah.
and cell coverage there, but, yeah.
And you were saying that multiple members in the family will be supported by one hotspot?
Yes, what we are hearing is that it should support 5 of our devices doing our curriculum. If it doesn't, we'll give them another one. We have plenty of
And do we
extras.
have hotspots now, because I know they were.
Yep, we left them out there all summer.
Okay.
We did not take them back in.
Could we please tell our listeners who Kirby is?
I'm sorry. Kirby Fell is our new director of informational technology. Computer department, technology department. I'm going to move on then to breakfast and lunch meal service. We have a lot of questions about, will we still have breakfast and meal service? Our CNS staff has done such a tremendous job all summer making sure that our families have access to these meals. We will continue to have that when distance learning starts. It might look a little different than it's looked in the summer, because we're going to want to provide it from each of our sites if we can, and that's what we're planning on doing. This is a sample of what it might look like and what we are planning right now. As we've said over and over again, our plans are only as good as that moment in time, because things change. And we are anticipating that we may have some changes from the state that will allow us a little bit more flexibility in our food service program. So it might not be this exact schedule, but this is the schedule that we have currently right now.
I have a question about the lunches, and at one time, we had 2 school sites where the lunches were free for all the students. Is that still going to happen?
That's what we're waiting on. That's the waiver that we're waiting on. So currently, that waiver would end with summer meal feeding. When that ends, that waiver would end. And so it would go more towards a traditional.
I know that's out of our
Right.
control.
Right. But children who qualify for free and reduced lunch would still be able to qualify for this currently, as the legislation stands now. But we're waiting to see if that waiver gets extended.
And this will be offered at all school sites?
Yes.
Will we be delivering up to Duluth?
Yes.
Excellent.
And we're also we're working with Amy, our Director of Child Nutrition Services, on some clever ideas and ways that we can get food to our students as well. Like we did this summer with some of our students. We had the Boys and Girls Club was helping us deliver things to our students that couldn't get to our school site. So we'll continue to work with that too. So I just wanted to spend a couple moments just talking about what our parents can expect next. School is quickly coming. The first day, August 17th, will be here before we know it. And our schools are currently doing what they would be doing at this time of the year if we weren't looking at a distance learning program. They are confirming their enrollment, they're forming their class lists, and our parents can expect that our principals, we will be communicating directly with them on kind of next steps or next things that are happening at their school, just like they would have done if we weren't on distance learning. So for example, when we know the teacher's assignments, like we usually have had like a meet your teacher, it will look differently this year because you can't come to the school and go into the classroom to meet your teacher. But we have, again, working on some very clever and creative ways that we can do that. So each school will be reaching out to their families to say how they're going to access who their teacher assignment is, how they will log in on that first day to a Google Meet. We've got 2 of our people kind of working on a generic Google Meet for each classroom so that it's easy to get to that first day. They'll be talking about school schedule start and end times to make sure that everybody knows what those are, how to pick up their supplies, what virtual back-to-school night might look like. Most of our schools, I think, are planning to do that much earlier this year since they are coming on campus and parents are going to have a lot of questions. So we're looking to do that more earlier in the year. And then just more specifics that, from their school and from their teachers on distance learning expectations, just like in a classroom. Your teacher would reach out to you and say, you know, these are some things that, in addition to what we know as our school, these are some of my expectations. So at this point, most of the information for our parents will come now from their principal. So I would suggest that people are looking at their Facebook page, that it will go out through Peachjar, it will go out through text, it will go out through email, it will be on their website. So all of those places where you've been getting information all summer, you'll want to be really looking in those areas now, so that as principals start to send out things, you'll see them. That concludes my
Do we
presentation.
have right now enrolled?
We have, where are we, about 4,850?
4,850 right now. So we're down a little bit, but that, one of the reasons is that you'll recall that we've chatted with you about before is that the Marine Corps stopped all transferring of servicemen and women. And so what we anticipate is that's going to pick up in August again. So we're down a little bit on both of our base schools, but we anticipate that we'll get a pretty, they're sharing with us that we'll get a nice influx of enrollment on Camp Pendleton once we get to August. So we'll wait and see. But we're down a little, but we think that the base numbers will pick that back up to where we thought we'd be.
But our other schools are pretty much on track.
I think so. What's tricky right now is that we are working with families to determine whether or not they're going to stay face-to-face or they're going to be virtual. So we're moving children out of their regular school into our virtual academy. So the number, the enrollment is fluctuating right now. It's hard to get a really good handle on exactly how many, where we are, but by the time we get to our next board meeting, it'll be the first day of school, and we'll be able to tell you then. We'll be able to tell you then. Oh, my goodness gracious.
When I asked about, earlier in email about the asynchronous versus live,
Yes.
you mentioned that if the schedule, being in front of the computer or being available 6 hours a day doesn't work for families, they might consider the homeschool.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about
I'm happy to.
how
Yeah, I'm happy to. You know, I think the way, it's a great question, Mrs. Leibus. I think the way that for families to try to, all of us get our head around it, is we have to think about the online experience the same way as you would think about it as if you were taking your children to school. So when you're taking your children to school in the morning and you're dropping them off, for some reason, if they had a doctor's appointment or they had something, a parent might go back to school and pick them up or check them out, or they might call them in with some kind of an excused absence maybe for the day. That same mindset needs to apply now, that you are in school full-time, and that if you have something that is going to keep you a lack of flexibility during the day, then that is going to cause you to have absence, unexcused absence, you know, just not logging into school because you have to go do something is not going to be okay. They're going to miss instruction if that happens, for the same way they would as if we were in real school. I hate to say real school because this is real school, but you know what I mean, if they were in face-to-face school. So one of the things that I've chatted with several parents about is they're needing the flexibility in their schedule. It might be because of their work schedule or their husband, the mom and the dad are sharing their responsibilities. And a couple of our parents that I've spoken with have decided that the homeschool option is a better one for them because they're the ones providing the instruction, right, as the parents, but they have much greater, the schedule is their schedule. It's not this school schedule, as Mrs. Norby has been describing. The parent creates the schedule when the instruction happens, when the child is doing their schoolwork. And our homeschool parents really appreciate that opportunity, that they are allowed to be flexible in the way, and we're monitoring their progress. You know, we have a teacher coach that works with parents who are in the homeschool, and we're monitoring work completion and assessments and how kids are doing. But it's a very different atmosphere than what we can anticipate with the requirement for children to actually be at school with us. So we're happy to talk through unique circumstances for parents if they want some ideas about how they might navigate needing a more flexible schedule. They just need to reach out to us, and we're happy to discuss it.
So they would have more flexibility, but then the parent is responsible for actually
That's right.
instructing.
The parent is responsible for the teaching.
Almost more work in
Yeah.
some ways, but
Well,
you have more
our
flexibility.
homeschool parents, our homeschoolers, they are committed, teachers to their children. And, it's a lot of work to be the teacher for your kids. So you have to be really prepared to do that. But we have folks who are really experienced homeschoolers, and we're happy to talk through that if that might be a good match for a family. We have an intake process, at our school where our homeschool is located. So if there's anyone who's interested in homeschooling, they can simply just reach out to us, and we'll get them connected to the right people. You bet.
Still keeping the class size reduction, is that correct?
We are,
So we're
Mrs. Weaver.
committed to doing that. So
Yes.
online it will be reduced,
Yes,
and then when they come back into the classroom, it will be the same cohort
that's
of
correct.
students in the same
That's
size,
correct.
reduced size.
It's a great question, because remember, if we anticipate coming back face-to-face, then we want those class sizes lower to accommodate the social distancing that we know that we will want to maintain. So 24-1 in the primary, 26-1 in our 4 through 6, and then 28-1 at our middle school. Now, if you're in our online program at the Fallbrook Virtual Academy, those class sizes will be anywhere from like 25 to 30. We can go up to 30 students in our Fallbrook Virtual Academy. Same thing in our homeschool. We have 30 students assigned to a teacher for our homeschoolers.
But they're never coming back.
Because they're not coming, yeah, because they're not coming. And that's what our provision for homeschool is 30-1. I don't anticipate that those classes will all be at 30. I think they're going to fluctuate a little bit, but the ones who are we anticipating coming back face-to-face, yes, is maintaining those sizes, you bet.
And I was just jotting down some notes as I was listening. So 8:30 to 2:30 is the schedule for middle,
Yes.
for junior high as well as third grade?
No, junior high has a different time.
Okay. I didn't write it all down. I just getting a feel for it.
Junior high is looking at 8:40. Down to 3:10. And again, that's an estimated sample.
Mhm. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I was
That's
just
okay. That's okay.
trying to wrap my head around what does
I
it
know.
look like?
Yeah, well, kind of really like a regular, it's pretty similar to a regular length of a school day, right? Which is important, and it's part of really the requirements for us, which we think is really important. We have a lot of work to do with our kids and a lot of teaching to do, so, but I'm hoping that so far what you can see is the thought and care that's gone into thinking of, into the plan for opening of school and the remarkable just thinking and work and reflection that our teachers have done to create this instructional program for our students to move forward. And, we'll learn a lot. This is, we're coming back at this, and but we know that we have remarkable teachers who are going to bring that remarkable skill to this environment too. So, you bet.
And it's something I asked you personally, but I want to just ask
You
you.
bet.
So again, I don't have that screen in front of me. We were talking about, a typical day, PE could be between 1:30 and 2 or something.
Yeah.
Could that be some type of activity in the community, like ballet or karate, or something that is going to get a kid, a student, being physically active, but would also cut down this number of students in their class, so that gym or whatever, that camp isn't overloaded with kids?
Yeah. Mrs. Tillman, where I can imagine that fitting into what our plan is we can predict that our PE teachers, as Ms. Norby was talking about, is creating individualized goal setting for physical education goals for kids. And I can see something like that being a part of their goal setting. Now, whether or not they are going to have the opportunity to not engage with their PE teacher and go to a karate class instead, that I can't tell you. But I can see how those types of really beautiful physical education activities would be very appropriate and actually really exciting for a student if a child had those kinds of
Well, because I've been asked by different places in the community, because right now they're trying to set their schedule
Right.
to accommodate the students.
Right.
They want to make sure that they stay in the program without overburdening the space.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
To-
You know, Mrs. Tillman, if you're, and any of our board members, as you're communicating with folks in our community who might be providers of those types of services, encourage them to reach out to us, because we're not quite, we're creating the schedule and kind of seeing how it's gonna go, and with PE, there might be some nice kinds of ways that we could interface with them and at least provide them with enough information to know how they might set their schedule so that they can be successful in their business and having children come. It's hard to predict and plan that particular piece at the moment. Yeah.
Can you give us an update on the May Ellis virtual puzzle piece?
So yes, we can. So the Maylis staff has been diligently calling every single family that has initially thought that they wanted to be in the virtual school. Our goal, if we could do it, was to create classes of dual kids who wanted virtual instruction. What we're finding, and as we're calling, those numbers are going down and down and down. And so I anticipate that if we're able to offer any kind of dual instruction at all, it's going to be very minimal, if at all, because the numbers are just so small. Now, I'm not saying that for sure yet. We're going to finish our calling in the next day or two, but I'll send an email to you, and we will certainly communicate to our May Ellis families. This is one of just the unfortunate consequences, because if you have 2 kids in this grade and 3 kids in this grade who want a virtual experience and want to stay online all year, we can't form a class like that. I mean, we can't put like 4 grade levels together to try to make a class. So we're gonna keep calling and see where we land. It's been an interesting process is that our families have shared with us maybe that they thought they might be virtual but have changed their mind since we're starting online anyway. So we're seeing a lot of that as we individually call every family, and that is a very true phenomenon at May Ellis as well. So we'll keep you posted about that, and as well as our May Ellis families. We're very, we know our families down to their names, and what they're, and by their kids, and what they want to do and what they don't want to do. You know how our school principals and secretaries, they know all their kids and their families. So we should know in the next day or two about what we're able to do at May Ellis, if anything. Okey doke. You bet.
It's a monumental.
It is.
My head spins.
I know. Ours too.
The work that you guys have put in.
Thank
And will
you.
continue, and all our teachers and supporting staff are going to have to just be willing to.
And they so are. They're so excited to get back to their kids. Yeah, they so are. Mrs. Lieber, did you have a question?
So we're still on a trajectory of 4 weeks.
Yes, thank you for asking that again. We committed to you that no matter what happened, we are staying online for 4 weeks because we need to create that academic and schedule, that stability for our children and for our families to be able to get into this kind of instructional routine. That's a minimum of 4 weeks. We also know that we will provide our families with 2 weeks' notice before we come back to face-to-face in whatever that looks like. That's important for our employees, that's important for our families, it's important for CNS, it's important for us for transportation, it's right, that we need a little window of planning time. So that minimally I can tell you, so that would be 6 weeks. If the case rate in our county continues to be what it is, I would anticipate that this is much longer than that. I mean, there's no crystal ball. Lots of districts have actually already committed to the whole first semester online. So we haven't done that yet because we were optimistic that we could get back to face-to-face, but we'll be able to monitor and let you know. Each board meeting, we'll give you an update about where we think we are, but we're minimally for sure staying for that first 4 weeks. It's actually 6 because we have that 2-week transition. So, but we'll get a nice solid foundation in place of our online learning program during that time, and I feel really confident that that's a wise thing to do.